slope, okay? What else do we have, Diana?
Rise over run.
Ooh, like that one. Okay, so rise over run. Let me backtrack for a second. We are not going to work on this equation yet. This is going to be our next section. Primarily m equals slope. Rise over run. Emma?
Like, isn't it like x1 minus x2 over y? Wait, x2 minus x1 over y2 minus y?
Close. Close.
Y2 minus y1 over x2
That's,
minus
yeah.
y.
There you go, okay? y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. If you don't know that, we're going to talk about it. Okay, what else? What are some other things we know about slope? Oh, you guys don't have to, you can write this stuff down. You don't have to write all this down. We're going to put it in our notes.
Oh.
Okay, what else do you guys know? Give me some real world examples of slope. Where do we see slope in the real world?
The rising graph.
The rising graph. If we were to graph it, yes. But physically, if I just look outside,
The graph, the hill.
the hill, that's for one example, right? Coming up the hill, you're coming up the hill. Oh, okay, but if we were an arc, that's a little different. Like a fish, not quite, because right now when we're talking about slope, we're talking about something that's kind of straight. Okay, so like a hill. What else? Give me something else that has some sort of steepness. Stairs would technically work if we were to make it flat, like the ramp, right? Go down the hall here to the ramp. That's slope. What about on top of a house? A roof. Okay. Ski slopes. Right? If we're going down the hill or up the hill, depending. Ski lifts, ski slopes. Okay. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? Your iPads when they're sitting at an angle that has a slope. Okay. What about if we're looking down just at this floor? Is there a slope here?
Yes.
Yeah, it has a slope. What would the slope probably be?
0.
0, because there's no up or down. There's no steepness. The definition of slope is the steepness of a line. Okay? So if I am like this, there's no steepness. Okay? What about if I'm looking right here at this wall coming up and down?
1.
Not 1. Not 0, because this is 0. So this and this can't be the same thing. This is 0.
100.
No. Undefined. Very good. Undefined. Okay, so we're going to talk about all of this. Okay? All right, so slope is defined as the steepness of a line. So the steepness of a line. Okay? And we are going to be definitely talking a lot about rise over run. Okay? It is also represented by the letter M. Okay? So, represented by letter M. Okay? Those are kind of some basics we need to know. So, how steep something is, rise over run, and it's represented by the letter M. Okay? All right, so now, I have this guy right here, and he is going to be a little kind of face, okay? And we're going to talk about the kind of 4 different types of slopes that you have, okay? 4 different types of slopes that you have, okay? So we have a positive slope, so I'm going to put a positive for an I, and we have a negative slope, so I'm going to put a negative for an I, okay? So now, when I'm looking at this, I'm going to put like little eyebrows on him, okay? And so when I'm looking and thinking about a positive slope line, okay, if I draw a line here, positive, I'm thinking about the little man, and he's walking up the hill. We are always reading our face across this way. So if I look here, positive, this is going uphill. Does that make sense? So this would be our positive slope going uphill, okay? This guy right here, if I do the next one, he's coming downhill. So here's my little guy, and he's walking downhill, okay? So downhill or negative. Does that make sense? Okay? All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is his nose. Okay? So we're going to put a little line down, and I'm going to put a U under it for his nose. So it's a vertical line. And what do you think the U represents?
Undefined.
Undefined. Okay, so if I have a vertical line, it's undefined. Now I'm going to draw a little mouth. Okay? And I'm going to put little dimples or zeros on each side. Okay? And the horizontal line has a slope of 0. Okay? It doesn't matter how it looks.
So the nose looks like a smiley face.
It doesn't matter how it looks. The point is you got to come up with some way to remember all this.
Wait,
Okay?
what are the
Here is a quick and easy way to do it. If you don't like my method, come up with your own, all right? This is a vertical line, Ellie, vertical line, undefined with a
And then
U.
what's the zero?
Horizontal line, slope of 0. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So if you need to, because I know a lot of people I know was struggling with horizontal. So this guy right here, that's a horizontal line.
We just go with
And it equals undefined?
No, horizontal is 0. That's why we have the
Oh,
zeros.
zero, sorry.
Horizontal, I didn't spell it right.
the bottom mouth with the smiling bird.
Okay, so horizontal is 0, and if you want to put a slope of 0 under there, do that, okay? And this guy right here, this is a vertical line, and we have an undefined slope. Okay, whatever you need to remember there, okay? I'm just trying to come up with a way for you to remember, because you can draw this little guy on your tests and quizzes and make sure you're getting things right this way.
And there's a plus sign and a negative. I draw thingies mean he's going up or down.
Positive slope or negative slope, okay? So he's positive if we're going uphill, he's negative if we're going downhill, okay? Alright. Alright, is everybody good there? Are we all clear on the little face now?
Yes.
Okay, so now find the slope of a line, and they're going to give you a picture. Okay, when you are given a picture, I want you to use rise over run. Okay, so off here to the side, I'm going to put rise over run. Okay, and I'm going to go from point to point, rise and run. I'm basically making a triangle. Okay, so I'm going to make a triangle from point to point. Okay. All right, so now when I make this triangle, it's a counting game. So how many up am I going? 3. Okay, so I'm going up 3. And how many across am I going? 4. Okay. So now if I'm going up 3 and I'm going over 4, okay, and I'm thinking about rise over run, my rise would be 3, and my run is 4. So my slope is 3/4 here. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now one of the things we need to kind of stress here is that when we're talking about rise over run, we started this equation here. It is really important for you to understand that you are always going to put your y value on top and your x value on the bottom. Okay? If you can remember rise over run, that's fine, but if I rise, that is on my y-axis. These are corresponding with my y points. If I run, those are corresponding with my x points. Okay? Now, the questions come up, so we're going to go ahead and address it in the last class, and that was, what if I make a triangle on the bottom side? Does that matter? No, it does not matter. Okay? So even if you start, let's say at this point and drop down, so if I start here and I go down, what would my number be?
Negative
Be -3 though, right? If you're going down, so it would be a -3. And now if I start here and I run this direction, right? How many units am I running? -4, because you're going towards the negatives. Okay, so it would be -4. So if you were to have -3, rising -3, and running -4, you're going to end up with 3/4 anyway. A negative by a negative is a positive. Okay? All right, so let's take a second here. First off, on this second one, am I going to have a positive slope or a negative slope? What should my answer be just looking at it? Okay, I know my answer better be negative, right? Because this is a downward hill. Okay, so I know my answer should be negative. And let's go ahead now, draw in your triangle. All right, what would my rise? What would my rise be here, Guadalupe? Okay, did you do yours on the bottom? Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to transfer this in. Let's put it on the bottom for her. So she says she's going to go down 1, and I'm fine with that. And then how many did you run across? +3. Okay, so now if I'm doing rise over run, what would my fraction look like here? Okay, does 3 go on top of the -1?
1 over 3.
The -1. I'm rising -1. I'm running 3. You're running across. Okay? Now again, if you choose to do it in the other direction here, okay, no big deal. You're going up 1, right? Up 1. And you're running across -3, right? Because you're going towards the negatives. So we go -3. So if I do that, do rise over run, it does not matter where my negative is, just as long as I've got it somewhere, okay? Now, if you guys even want to call it negative 1/3 and put the negative out very front, that is the same thing. It will not matter, okay? All right, any questions on the front page? Okay? Slope formula, we already have that up on the board, okay? So let's go ahead and write that in. Slope, it means m, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Okay? So now, when it says find the slope given these points, okay, you are just going to go through and label. This is your first x value. So we label it x1. This is your first y value, y1. Second x value, so x2, and then y2. Everybody good there? Okay, so now it's just a matter of plugging it in. Okay, so I subtract my y's. y2 minus y1. y2 is negative 5. I'm just plugging in. So I've got negative 5 minus my y1 value is negative 1. Put your y, now put your x's on the bottom. Negative 2 minus negative 4. So now what happens with all? What do you mean?
Negative 4 is on top.
Oh,
No,
never mind.
no, but my y is on top. That's okay. Y is on top, and then my x is on the bottom. Are we okay with that? Yes, and then yes, we of course make double negatives positive. So now on the top, what is negative 5 plus 1?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. What is negative 2 plus 4?
2.
2. All right, now we are going to reduce this. We're not going to leave it like this. So what would my answer be?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. If you put it as negative 2 over 1, I'd give that to you. But we can also just call it negative 2. Okay? All right, now the question has come up. Does it matter, because you know in some junior highs we were just taught subtract your y's. Does it matter if I start with negative 1? No. Okay? So if you just want to put your y's on top, so if you start with negative 1 minus, and then you go over to negative 5, it's the same thing. Over, but if you start here on the top, you better start here on the bottom. Okay? So then I'm going to have negative 4 minus negative 2. You're going to get the exact same answer because it'll become plus in the middle. It'll just be 4 with a negative 2 on the bottom. It's the same thing. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what corner point you start with. Just make sure if you start on the top there, you start on the bottom. Okay? All right, take a second. I want you to try B on your own now, please. B on your own.